China wants Taiwan, but not in the way you think. This isn't about trade deals or some quick exchange with world powers. Taiwan is not a bargaining chip. It's not something you can just buy or sell. But what if I told you that China's real game with Taiwan is something far bigger than anyone's telling you? Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't this all about power, strategy, and regional dominance? But there's one detail, one factor that no one's talking about, and it could change everything. So why is this issue still being treated like some diplomatic negotiation when it's far more than that? Stay tuned, because the real story behind China's Taiwan ambitions isn't what you think it is. The situation with Taiwan isn't just about a piece of land or a political dispute. It's part of something much bigger, a pattern that's been unfolding over decades. This isn't the first time China has made its intentions clear, but every new move brings it closer to the inevitable. So what exactly is China after? What if this isn't just about Taiwan itself, but about the way the entire region operates? About how the world reacts to Beijing's growing power? And here's the real question. How far are we willing to go before the rules of this game change forever? And trust me, it's not just about one deal or one president. The bigger game, that's still in play. Here's the reality. China's view on Taiwan is clear, and they've made it known for years. It's not a bargaining chip. It's not a matter of trade. According to Beijing, Taiwan is simply part of China. That's the official line, and it's been set in stone for decades. But here's where it gets interesting. Taiwan is not a territory they've ever controlled, not in the way they control Hong Kong or other regions. So how does China plan to change that? The answer is unsettling. The idea isn't to buy Taiwan, it's to reunify it. And that brings us to something even more chilling. China is learning from its experiences in Hong Kong. They've seen how Hong Kong's one country, two systems model has evolved, and they believe they can apply the same methods to Taiwan. But here's the thing. The system in Hong Kong is already falling apart. So if that's the plan, what does it mean for Taiwan? Now think about this. If China can't buy Taiwan, what's left? What comes next? The situation is escalating. If you think the tension with Taiwan is a recent development, think again. China's strategy isn't new. It's been decades in the making. And it's not about a quick fix. It's about a long game. Look at Hong Kong. What began as a one country, two systems promise has now turned into a crackdown on freedoms, a system of control, and the crushing of independent voices. Sound familiar? Now, China's vision for Taiwan is even more ambitious. They're not just aiming for a political shift. They want a societal overhaul. The push for reunification isn't just about borders. It's about changing the very identity of the people. Taiwan's democracy, its free elections, its diverse political voices, all of it stands in direct opposition to what China envisions. And here's the kicker. This has been normalized. In Beijing's eyes, Hong Kong was just the beginning. The world's focus may have shifted, but China's ambitions haven't wavered. So, what does this normalization of control mean for Taiwan? And how far will they go to get it? Now, things are getting even more disturbing. China's tactics are not just political, they're strategic. The reality is, China is willing to adapt, even manipulate its methods. Take the recent rhetoric from Beijing. A Chinese ambassador hinted at something chilling, the idea of re-education for Taiwan. What does that mean? A massive campaign to reshape the hearts and minds of an entire population. But it gets worse. In Hong Kong, we saw sham elections, loyalty oaths, and the destruction of the press. Now, if that's the blueprint for Taiwan, what does the future hold for 23 million people living on that island? Can Taiwan's democracy survive this kind of pressure? Would the world stand by as China imposes this model just like it did in Hong Kong? And let's be clear, China's not waiting for Taiwan to just fall in line. This isn't about Taiwan willingly accepting reunification. No, this is about forcing it. And that is where things get dangerous. How much longer can Taiwan hold on to its sovereignty before Beijing's tactics turn to something far more aggressive? Everything's moving faster now. The pieces are falling into place, and Beijing isn't backing down. We've seen the re-education campaigns, the crushing of free speech, the manipulation of democracy in Hong Kong. But it's not just about rhetoric anymore, it's about action. China's ambition for Taiwan isn't just a political statement anymore, it's a systemic shift. They're already stacking up options, and they're waiting for the right moment. The pressure is mounting. In Beijing, there's talk about military solutions, and here's the kicker. Some voices inside China see Trump as an opportunity, not just for trade, but for Taiwan. A president who doesn't care much for democracy or traditional alliances could be the perfect opening. What happens if China decides this is the time to move? The window might not be open for long, and Beijing is patient. If they miss this chance, they know it might not come around again. What happens if this continues? Will Taiwan's democratic system hold, or will Beijing turn this pressure into something more dangerous? This isn't just a game of politics or power, it's about real people. Imagine the impact on ordinary Taiwanese citizens, their daily lives, their rights, their freedoms, all of it at risk. Taiwan is a thriving democracy where citizens vote freely and choose their leaders. But under China's vision, that could change in an instant. For people living in Taiwan, this isn't some distant geopolitical drama. This is their reality. The fear isn't just about military action, it's about what comes next. The erosion of their identity, their way of life, and the very freedoms they take for granted. And here's the question. If you were in Taiwan's shoes, how would you respond? Would you want to swear loyalty to a government that doesn't represent you? Would you be willing to give up everything for the sake of a unified China? If this feels familiar, say so in the comments. The truth is, this isn't just about Taiwan or even about China. It's about the systems that enable these ambitions to take shape. Why is this allowed to happen? Why has the world watched as Beijing has tightened its grip on Hong Kong and now sets its sights on Taiwan? The answer is unsettling. Incentives, power, and fear. China knows exactly how to leverage the global stage. It plays the long game, waiting patiently while others focus on short-term wins. And here's the key. The world's reluctance to challenge China's growing influence is the very thing that enables it. Economic ties, geopolitical pressure, and fear of conflict. These are the tools China uses to shape its agenda. What's truly disturbing is how the spectacle of China's actions can push the world into a corner. How do you confront a system that thrives on patience and power with an endless supply of leverage at its disposal? This isn't just about China making a move on Taiwan. It's about the systems of control they've mastered and what happens when they decide to use them. So what happens next? The future is uncertain, but two paths seem to be unfolding. On one hand, we have the slow burn, China's patient strategy, waiting decades for Taiwan to be gradually absorbed, its democracy eventually worn down, its identity reshaped. It might take 30, 40 years, but China knows that time is on its side. On the other hand, there's the more urgent option, a sudden push, a more aggressive attempt to reunify Taiwan under Chinese control. With a window of opportunity possibly closing under Trump's presidency, Beijing might decide that waiting isn't an option. If they push now, they risk war, but they also risk losing everything they've worked for. Which path will they choose? And what does it mean for the world, for Taiwan, and for the people who live there? The truth is, we can't predict exactly what will happen, but the pressure is building and something is coming. In the end, the question isn't whether China will try to take Taiwan, it's about how the world will react when they do. The stakes have never been higher, and the choices are clearer than ever. The system of global power, the balance of fear, leverage, and patience, all of it is coming to a head. Taiwan isn't just a piece of land on a map. It's the front line in a much larger struggle for control, identity, and sovereignty. If Taiwan falls, what happens next? As China's ambitions continue to unfold, one thing is clear. The next moves are already in motion. Will the world stand by, or will it finally take a stand? For continued analysis on what's happening behind the headlines, don't forget to follow and subscribe.